Mr. Agnew.
Mr. Agnew.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, first of all, I do really feel obliged to point out that I am actually here. My Conservative colleagues criticise my political party for not turning up to committee meetings in the European Parliament. Well, Mr. Fox's place is absent, and so is Mr. Hannan's, as far as I can see. So, really, if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. Now, Mr. Duff's report on the arrangements for the next European Parliament election, I see he's sitting back wondering what's going to come. First of all, it does rather, the irony doesn't escape me that the EU, which is not a democratic machine, is lecturing one of the oldest democracies in the world on how to conduct its elections. Now, we are told that we've got to publish the name of candidates 6 weeks before the election. I don't think we need to be told that. This is something that actually solves itself. It's very much in the interest of a political party to get the names of its candidates out fairly early, so that those candidates can do a bit of campaigning and can get ahead of the game. A political party that withholds the names of its candidates immediately arouses suspicion. Why are they holding back? The media will start to ask questions. Have some of those candidates got a criminal record? Are they waiting for some of them to come out of prison? We don't need legislation in this area. We know how to do this. It sorts itself out. We've got the point here that the emblems and the names of the European political parties must appear on the ballot paper alongside the respective lists of candidates. Well, there is no brand recognition in the UK as such organisations as the ECR or ALDE or the EPP. It just confuses everybody. Organisations like that have not got together in the UK and said, come on, let's form a party and stand in front of the electorate. There's something that's imposed on the electorate. Then we've got this business about the European political parties need to nominate their candidates for the Commission presidency. I mean, this isn't an election to the Commission. Unless the rules have changed, and I don't know about it, but it appears to be a bit like the Pope. They all go into a room and somebody emerges as the President. Then we talk about we must encourage the Member States to permit political broadcasts by the European political parties. Well, there's confusion here, and Andrew, I think you've got to sort this out. Does that mean that your party, the Liberal Democrats, has a political broadcast, and also the ALDE group has a political broadcast, remembering that in our country you have to earn your way into these things. Parties that have a better record in the past are allowed more time, and you slowly build your way in on the strength of what you've done in the past. This would appear to wipe our tradition out and impose something on us, and it could mean a multitude of television broadcasts on behalf of political parties whom nobody has ever heard of. This report insists that the Member States take all steps needed to give effective implementation to the measures agreed on to assist citizens who wish to vote or stand as a candidate in states other than their own. Well, this is a red rag to a bull to me. Why should the British people be represented by foreigners who live in other countries? I see no reason for that at all. We've only got 72 MEPs to represent the 62 million people who live in Britain. Surely they ought to be British, and surely they ought to live in the areas where they want to represent. I would have thought that that was fairly logical, and I'm disappointed that that's going to be moved away from. Now we have the part of the report that insists that no result may be published by any Member State until 8 o'clock on the Sunday of the 25th of May. Well, that should be the decision of the Member State. We have the strange process now of these European Parliament elections in Britain where we vote on the Thursday, and these voting papers then have to be looked after, and I say it like that. We don't know quite what happens to all those ballots sitting in the box for those 3 days until Sunday when we all count them. That in itself is a bit of a worry. What this doesn't actually say is whether the counting shouldn't start until the Sunday or whether the results shouldn't be announced until the Sunday. So that has actually got to be clarified. And finally, my colleague in front of me from the Green Party talks about gender balancing, the compulsory positioning of women and men. Now, she's smiling at me, but she doesn't seem to realise that women are not a minority beaten by the violent husband. Women are actually statistically in the majority because they live longer, they're more likely to be more women voting than men voting. That means if women are really, really concerned about the lack of women in the European Parliament, all they need to do is join political parties en masse, and they then select the female candidates from those parties. It's very easy. You don't need to be told to do this by the European Union, and it also creates a very artificial situation in a political party. You get some women who are there by virtue of their ability. You get others who are there by virtue of their gender. Two different sorts of women, and I'm sure there will be friction between them. Please keep away from it. Okay? Thank you very much.
First of all, your paragraph 4, permitting political broadcasts. Yes, I don't have a problem with this, but it's the language issue. In other words, it should be in all the languages of the European Union, with subtitles where necessary. Who's paying for that? Who's going to pay for the subtitling? I mean, suppose that a British candidate, suppose that Mr. Agnew puts himself forward as presidential candidate for the Commission, he will come to Hungary and not speak Hungarian. And in other words, not many people will listen. So that, I think, is an issue that has to be faced. Unless we want to torture electors with foreign languages that they simply can't compete with, like Hungarian. You know, just imagine if I were to come and campaign for you, Andrew, and then started to speak Hungarian in East Anglia, I don't think I'd get very far. I think it's a real issue.
I would stress to Stuart Agnew that that anyone who votes or stands in the election will need residency in the state that they either vote or stand. We aren't having free-wheeling foreigners suddenly popping up for election in a state for the European Parliament. I would like to see that, actually, but we're not going to get that because we aren't going to get transnational lists.